Hope you can see the screen right now. Can you see the screen? Okay. So we were actually dealing with the fifth module. You may not be remembering the fourth, third, and second and first modules. I think like that. So in the fifth module, actually, we were discussing about the relation between the union and the states. So far, till the fourth module, we were discussing about the various functions of the various the state and union bodies. State and union bodies, in the sense, the legislative bodies of the state, then the parliament, then the judicial part of the central and the judicial part of the state. Then we discussed about the executive, that is the chief minister, cabinet of ministers, and president, which belongs to the union. And when it comes to state, we were dealing with the governor, chief minister, and their functions, their tenure, their qualifications, their disqualifications. All those things were dealt with in the first four modules. So in the last module, we started discussions about the relation between the union and the states, how the relation is being affected in normal condition, and how the relation is being affected at the time of emergency. I think we have discussed about the emergency provisions also. So I will just give you a recap on that. The first topic was the relation between the union and the states. Relation, in the sense, it was basically been divided into three different categories: the legislative relation, administrative relation, and the financial relation. So in the legislative relation, as the name indicates, the legislative relation shows a relation between the parliament and the legislative assemblies of the state, how they have been related, who will be having more power, and in which condition. That is, parliament will be having supreme power in certain conditions. And when it comes to administrative relation, related to the executive powers. And finally, the financial relations. And two constitutional bodies were been discussed. One was interstate council, that is a constitutional board. Constitutional body, in the sense, that is formed in accordance with an article in the constitution. If you are calling a particular body as a constitutional body, you might have heard this term, a constitutional body. That is, it's actually a body which is formed in accordance with an article in the constitution. Constitutional provision which it create in a body, a council. That is what we call it as a constitutional body. So both these interstate council as well as the finance commission, both these are constitutional bodies. That is, articles have been corresponding to their formation. Their formation is in accordance with the articles in the constitution. That's why we call it as constitutional bodies. So these two are constitutional bodies, which you have seen in the first part of fifth module. And the second part was with respect to the emergency provisions. I hope you will be remembering the basic things. That is, we are having three basic emergencies. One is the national emergency, the second one being the president's rule, and the third one being the financial emergency. So, and we have the articles from 352 to 360 giving us the provision for the emergency. Okay, Article 352 to Article 360 will be dealing with the emergency provisions. Okay, you just remember that. I mean, Article 352 to 360. So in that, Article 352 will be dealing with the national emergency, and 360 will be dealing with the financial emergency. We will see that in detail right now. I think we can start with the emergency provision. The rest you can read. I mean, we have already discussed the relation between union and the states and all. We'll restart from emergency provisions, and that will be a bit more interesting as well. We haven't actually gone through this phase, right? Emergency, we haven't gone through this phase. And yeah, this one. A state of emergency in India refers to a period of governance that can be proclaimed by the President of India during certain crisis conditions. So the proclamation, we call it as a proclamation of emergency, and that usually done by President of India during certain crisis situations. So under the advice of Cabinet of Ministers, the President can overrule many provisions of the Constitution which guarantees fundamental rights to the citizen of India. So that's the main thing. That is, during the emergency period, we will not be having, or will not be enjoying the fundamental rights as we enjoyed it before the emergency period. Normal conditions namukkulla fundamental rights, we will not be enjoying that to that extent during the time of emergency. So the emergency provisions are contained in Part 18 of the Constitution of India, that is from Article 352 to Article 360. These provisions enable the central government to meet any abnormal situation effectively. That is, if any abnormal situation occurs, either with respect to the central or with respect to a state, emergency can be called. Then the rationality behind the incorporation is to safeguard the sovereignty, unity, integrity, and security of the country, the democratic political system, and the constitution. So these are the, emergency is usually called for safeguarding these many parameters. That is the sovereignty, in order to safeguard sovereignty, unity, integrity, security of the country, the democratic political system, and the constitution. So this is actually the aim of calling emergency. Emergency നമ്മൾ proclaim ചെയ്യാനുള്ള reason ഈ പറയുന്നതൊക്കെയാണ്. So as I have already mentioned, we are having three types of emergencies: national emergency, constitutional emergency, and financial emergency. This constitutional emergency is something which we call it as president's rule also, with respect to a state. President's rule എന്നും പറയും ഈ constitutional emergency. So first one, the national emergency. The national emergency can be declared on the basis of war, external aggression, or armed rebellion. Okay. So this you can see this term, that is armed rebellion. This was actually it was not the term initially. തുടക്കത്തിൽ constitution defines ചെയ്യുന്ന സമയത്ത് this was not the term. This was actually internal disturbance. Okay. It was actually internal disturbance, and later only it was changed as armed rebellion, that you can see over here. The term armed rebellion is inserted from the 44th Amendment. So as per the 44th Amendment, I think the year was 1978. 44th Amendment was in the year of 1978. In that 44th Amendment, this term, that is armed rebellion, was being replaced by internal disturbance. Internal disturbance was replaced by armed rebellion. Before 44th Amendment, that is before 1978, here we had war, external aggression, or internal disturbance. After the 44th Amendment, it was changed to armed rebellion. So you just focus on these three reasons. I mean, you should be able to understand the reasons for calling the national emergency. On the basis of war, external aggression, or armed rebellion. The Constitution employs the expression proclamation of emergency to denote an emergency of this type. I think at that time I have shown you the Gazette notification for this also. Then grounds of declaration. Under Article 352, remember national emergency is defined under Article 352. Under Article 352, the President can declare a national emergency when the security of India or a part of it is threatened by war, external aggression, or armed rebellion. The President can declare a national emergency even before the actual occurrence of a war or armed rebellion or external aggression. That is, it is not necessary that only after the occurrence of a particular war or armed rebellion or external aggression that President calls this national emergency. Even before the occurrence of this war or external rebellion, President can call for President can declare a national emergency. So two basic classifications, that is how this national emergency is called as external or internal. If the national emergency is declared on the grounds of war or external aggression, it is known as external emergency. So in the case of this national emergency itself, we are classifying it into external as well as internal. On which basis? If it is called due to the following reasons, like the war or external aggression, we can call it as an external emergency, or if it is due to the armed rebellion, if the reason behind declaration of this emergency, national emergency, is due to the armed rebellion, then we will call it as an internal emergency. So these are the points that you should remember. These are the basic things that you should remember when you are asked for national emergency. First thing is that the basic reasons or the grounds on which national emergency is being declared are war. One is war, then external aggression, and then armed rebellion. When you say armed rebellion, remember that before 44th Amendment in the year 1978, it was called, or this term was actually internal disturbance. Okay. Before 1978, 44th Amendment, the term was actually internal disturbance. Only after that, that is after our, we actually had 3 national emergencies. 3 national emergencies we had. And the second and third one ended in 1977. 1977, it was the last time that 1975 to 77 was the last national emergency that we had. So only after that, we had the 44th Amendment. So all our national emergencies were being on the basis of internal disturbance. Internal disturbance in the parameter. Okay, emergencies declare either samayathallam, we had internal disturbance as part of this sentence. Only in 1978, as part of 44th Amendment, we changed the internal disturbance to armed rebellion. Okay, remember these many things as basic things. Okay, and then we will go a bit more detail into this. Then how the parliamentary approval and duration of this national emergency is being, mentioned in the case of national emergency. The proclamation of emergency must be approved by both the houses of parliament within 1 month from the date of its issue. So for issuing or for declaring national emergency, it does not require at that time, at the time of declaration, it doesn't require the the approval from both the houses, but within 1 month from the date of its issue, it requires the approval from both the houses of parliament, both Rajya Sabha as well as Lok Sabha. Then if the proclamation of emergency is issued at a time when the Lok Sabha has been dissolved or dissolution takes place during the period, at first you should be able to understand the term called dissolved. There are 2 terms when you deal with parliament. Sabha, which we are having 2 different terms. One is prorogue. Prorogue is one term, and the other is dissolved. Prorogue means we are calling off the meeting for 1 day and we will come back in the next day. We are having Kerala Niyama Sabha. So we'll be having a duration for this meeting, right? Here somewhere we'll be having a duration. So if you are calling off for today and we are coming back tomorrow, then we will call it as a session. We will call it as prorogue. One session. But dissolution means that particular assembly has got dissolved. That is actually having a term of 5 years. Dissolved. Dissolved only after the completion of 5 years. 5 years dissolution. Okay. Dissolution happens after the 5 years of elections. Then we will call it as that particular parliamentary body has dissolved. Otherwise, we will call the term as prorogue. Prorogue means that meeting is actually happening and we have stopped that for this day and we will begin on the next day in that manner. So if the proclamation of emergency is issued at a time when Lok Sabha has been dissolved or dissolution takes place, second condition is or dissolution takes place during the period of 1 month without approving the proclamation, then proclamation survives until 30 days from the first sitting of Lok Sabha after its reconstitution. So once the parliamentary body has been dissolved, we will be reconstituting it. So after the reconstitution of the parliamentary body, that is Lok Sabha, after the reconstitution of Lok Sabha, within 30 days, this proclamation has to be approved. That is the only thing that you should remember. That is, if at that time, I'm actually, we are actually having a declaration of emergency today. And tomorrow or day after tomorrow, we say that at this time, while declaring this national emergency, it does not require any approval from houses of parliament. But within 1 month, it requires the approval. But after 2-3 days, the parliament is getting dissolved. That is, that term is over and it is getting dissolved. So in that sense, in that case, the proclamation will survive until 30 days from the first sitting of Lok Sabha after its reconstitution. Only dissolved ആയി കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ then it should be reconstituted. So once it is reconstituted, immediately after 30 days, or we can say within 30 days, this proclamation has to be approved, provided the Rajya Sabha has in the meantime approved it. എന്തുകൊണ്ടാണ് Rajya Sabha is a body which is not dissolved. We will not be dissolving Rajya Sabha. It is a continuous body, right? Rajya Sabha നമുക്കറിയാം 1/3 മെമ്പേഴ്സ് ആണ് ചേഞ്ച് ആയിക്കൊണ്ടിരിക്കുന്നത് രാജ്യസഭയുടെ കേസിൽ. It's not like Lok Sabha. We are not having that particular election for രാജ്യസഭ അല്ലെ. രാജ്യസഭയിൽ 1/3 മെമ്പേഴ്സ് എപ്പോഴും ചേഞ്ച് ആയിക്കൊണ്ടിരിക്കും 6 years. The tenure in case of Rajya Sabha is 6 years. So Rajya Sabha is actually a body which is not been dissolved. But whereas Lok Sabha is concerned, it will get dissolved. And if that dissolution takes place at the time of declaration of emergency, then the reconstitution of Lok Sabha has to take place. After the reconstitution, within 30 days, this proclamation has to be approved. That is the condition. Clear or no? Is that clear? Clear or no? Regarding the parliamentary approval. So basically, this is just one thing that you should remember is that at the time of proclamation of emergency, okay, at the time of proclamation, it does not require any approval. But within 1 month, the proclamation of emergency has to be approved by both the houses of parliament. That's the second point. Third point is that suppose we have declared the emergency, and at that time, either the parliament is Lok Sabha is dissolved, or dissolution takes place within 2-3 weeks or 2-3 days. 1 month മുമ്പ് തന്നെ dissolution സംഭവിക്കുകയാണെങ്കിൽ then what happens? Then the Lok Sabha obviously has to be reconstituted, right? Dissolution സംഭവിച്ചാൽ it has to be reconstituted. Then it has to be reconstituted, and within 1 month after its reconstitution, this proclamation has to be approved by the Lok Sabha, provided Rajya Sabha has approved it. കാരണം Rajya Sabha it's a continuous body. അതിന്റെ അപ്രൂവൽ കിട്ടാൻ പ്രയാസമില്ല, കാരണം ഇറ്റ്സ് എ കണ്ടിന്യൂസ് ബോഡി, അതിനൊരു ഡിസൊല്യൂഷൻ ഇല്ല. ഡിസൊല്യൂഷൻ സംഭവിക്കുന്നത് ലോക്സഭയ്ക്കാണ്. So if the emergency happens at the time of dissolution of Lok Sabha, then the Lok Sabha has to reconstitute, and within one month of its reconstitution, it has to approve the proclamation of emergency. Then only it will be valid. Is that clear right now? Hello? Clear now? Okay. If approved by both the houses, the emergency, once it is approved, what happens? If it is approved by both the houses, the emergency continues for 6 months and can be extended to an indefinite period with an approval of the parliament for every 6 months. So its validity will be for 6 months, and after every 6 months, it can be extended by the approval of the parliament. Okay. For one approval, the validity is for 6 months. After that, it can be extended only by the approval of the parliament for every 6 months. Every resolution approving the proclamation of emergency or its continuance must be passed by either House of Parliament by a special majority. Okay. Every resolution approving the proclamation of emergency or its continuance, all the resolutions related to this emergency or its continuance must be passed by either House of a Parliament by a special majority. What is a special majority? We have discussed about the different types of majorities, right? Do you remember which are the different types of majority? Anyone? Which are the different types of majorities that we have discussed? Anyone remembers? Special majority is one type. Then any other types that you remember? Anusri is present or not? She's yeah. Anusri. ഓർക്കുന്നുണ്ടോ? Yeah, simple majority is there. Then any other? Absolute majority was there. Then one more type was there, which is called effective majority. So these are the 4 different majorities. Okay, simple majority, special majority, absolute majority, and effective majority. We have discussed this. Okay. So in case of proclamation of emergency, all the resolutions corresponding to the proclamation of emergency and its continuance has to be passed by either House of the Parliament by a special majority. So if you are asked for, asked for a short note on majority, then you remember that special majority is with relation to the emergency. Special majority every using it is related to the proclamation of emergency. That is 2/3 majority. Okay. Simple majority case we have half plus one. From simple majority case, if you say if you're having 10 people, 10 persons in the parliament, okay, strength is 10, and at the time of voting, 8 are present. I am telling about simple majority, not special majority. You are having your strength is 10. 8 members are present at the time of voting. Then, in order to get a simple majority, you require how many votes? In order to get a simple majority, you require how many votes? Your strength is 10. 8 of the members are present at the time of voting. Then for simple majority, what should be the vote that you should have? In case of simple majority, it will be 50%. That is 8 are present members who are involved in the voting. So it's for a simple majority, you should be having at least 5. That is actually simple majority. But special majority, it's 2/3. 2/3 vote should be there for having a special majority. Okay. So special, you just remember that the term that is the majority term that is related to the national emergency proclamation is special majority. Then revocation of proclamation. We should be able to understand how it's been revoked also, how it's been cancelled also, right? The proclaim we should be able to revoke it also. So what is the condition for that? A proclamation of emergency may be revoked by president at any time by a subsequent proclamation. Such proclamation does not require parliamentary approval. The emergency must be revoked if the Lok Sabha passes a resolution by a simple majority disapproving its continuation. Is that clear? A proclamation of one is that the president proclamation of emergency can be revoked by the president at any time by a subsequent proclamation. It does not require any parliament approval. The emergency must be revoked if the Lok Sabha passes a resolution by a simple majority disapproving its continuation. I hope you got the point. In order to extend or in order to pass a proclamation of emergency, we required special majority. But to revoke that, we just require simple majority. Okay, to cancel that proclamation, we just require simple majority. So that's about its approval and its revocation of proclamation. Then, and you have seen how now you should see how it affects the people, common people. You should be able to understand. So effects of national emergency has been grouped into three main categories. Basically, it affects we are studying all these in 5th module, which deals with the union-state relationship. All these things are dealt under a particular term called union-state relationship. Obviously, this emergency will also affect center-state relationship. So the first effect of national emergency is with respect to the center-state relations. So center-state relations, we know, we'll be having executive, legislative, and financial, financial relations. So these will be affected. So how these have been affected, we'll see that. The case of, in terms of executive, at the time of emergency, at the time of national emergency, center becomes entitled to give executive directions to a state on any matter. The state executive will not be having much role. The central will be having more power at the time of emergency, and it will be giving the directions to any state on any matter. Second is legislative. Obviously, the parliament will be having more power at the time of national emergency. And one thing that you should remember is that we have mentioned certain things in state list. We know about the 3 different lists: union list, state list, and concurrent list. So the matters that have been present or mentioned in the state list That is, on the matters that are present in the state leads, also the parliament will be having the power to make laws at the time of emergency. That is the legislative effect. And then financial effect is that the president can modify the constitutional distribution of revenues between the center and the states. So that will be decided by the president. At the time of emergency, president will be modifying the constitutional distribution of revenues. In constitution, we have, it's mentioned like how the tax and revenues has to be distributed among the different states and all. So all these things will be affected, right? At the time of emergency, all these things will be affected. First thing is that the executive of the state will be affected. That is, the central executive will be having more power. They will be giving directions to the state on any matter. Second thing is that the parliament becomes more powerful. That is, parliament even make a law on a matter which is present in the state list also. State list or matter where parliament can make law. But one thing you should remember is that all these laws on state subjects become inoperative 6 months after the emergency has been ceased to be in operation. So after 6 months of ceasing the emergency, all these laws made by the parliament will become inoperative. So these laws are applicable only at the time of this emergency period. And the third one is financial. That is, the president can modify the constitutional distribution of revenues between state and the center. So these are the center. I mean, this is how the center-state relationship is being affected due to national emergency. Then effect on the life of Lok Sabha and the State Assembly. While a proclamation of national emergency is in operation, the life of the Lok Sabha may be extended beyond the normal term for 1 year at a time. However, this extension cannot continue beyond a period of 6 months after the emergency has ceased to operate. So you can see that while a proclamation of national emergency is in operation, the life of Lok Sabha may be extended beyond the normal term, that is 5 years. 5 years are a normal term. That can be extended for 1 year. Okay, that can be extended to 1 more year at the time of emergency. Similar to that of Parliament. Parliament also may extend the normal tenure of a state legislative assembly by 1 year. Both state assembly as well as the Parliament will have their period extended by 1 year. Can be extended. Their period can be extended by 1 year. Then effect on fundamental rights. Yes. 3 major effects that we are discussing are: one is the effect on center-state relationship. This was the first thing that we discussed, effect on center-state relationship. Then effect on the life of Lok Sabha and State Assembly. That is, their time period can be extended, or their term can be extended to 1 year. Then the third one is effect on fundamental rights. This is very important. How national emergency affects the fundamental rights. So we all are enjoying certain fundamental rights, right? We all are enjoying the fundamental rights, but and you all have mentioned about when I have asked about the most important fundamental right, you mentioned some answers. What was that? Which according to you is the most important fundamental right? Yeah, that one. Which was the most important fundamental right? Which was the most important fundamental right? You have written the assignment, right? Which according to you is the most important fundamental right? By the way, which are the fundamental rights actually? Ashna, ഏതൊക്കെ ഫണ്ടമെന്റൽ റൈറ്റ്സ്? ജസ്റ്റ് പറഞ്ഞാൽ മതി ഏതൊക്കെയാണ്.
ഇക്വാലിറ്റി, പിന്നെ ട്രാവൽ ചെയ്യാനുള്ള അത്, റൈറ്റ് ടു കോൺസ്റ്റിറ്റ്യൂഷണൽ റെമഡീസ് ആണ് മോസ്റ്റ് ഇമ്പോർട്ടന്റ് ആയിട്ട് പറഞ്ഞത്.
ഓക്കെ, റൈറ്റ് ടു കോൺസ്റ്റിറ്റ്യൂഷണൽ എന്തായിരുന്നു റൈറ്റ് ടു കോൺസ്റ്റിറ്റ്യൂഷണൽ റെമഡീസ് എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്? വാട്ട് വാസ് ദാറ്റ്?
കോൺസ്റ്റിറ്റ്യൂഷൻ അനുവദിക്കുന്ന എല്ലാ കാര്യങ്ങൾക്കുള്ള അവകാശം.
അവകാശം. ഓക്കെ, ഇനിയും കിട്ടിയില്ലെങ്കിൽ, അവകാശം നമുക്ക് കിട്ടിയില്ലെങ്കിൽ, അതാണ് ആക്ച്വലി കോൺസ്റ്റിറ്റ്യൂഷണൽ റെമഡി എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. വി ഹാവ് ദ റൈറ്റ് ടു അപ്രോച്ച് ദ കോർട്ട് ഇൻ കേസ് ഓഫ് any violation happens to a fundamental right. That is actually what we mean by constitutional right. I mean, right to constitutional remedy. Okay, we have the freedom of approaching the court whenever we feel that our fundamental right is being violated. അല്ലെങ്കിൽ നമുക്ക് fundamental right കിട്ടുന്നില്ല എങ്കിൽ we can directly approach the court. That is actually what we have been provided with as part of right to constitutional remedies. So all these fundamental rights, they will be suspended. They will be suspended as part of, I mean, when the national emergency comes. There is a suspension of fundamental rights under Article 19. According to Article 358, when a proclamation of national emergency is made, the 6 fundamental rights under Article 19 are automatically suspended. Article 19 is automatically revived after the expiry of emergency. So remember that the most important effect of, or you can say that as far as a common man is concerned, the major effect of this national emergency is that his fundamental rights will be suspended. Okay, the fundamental rights that was being provided to him as part of Article 19 will be suspended. And this suspension എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് ഏത് ആർട്ടിക്കിൾ അനുസരിച്ചാണ്? ആർട്ടിക്കിൾ 358. Remember that Article 352 to Article 360 is actually dealing with the emergency provisions. 352 മുതൽ 360 വരെയാണ് എമർജൻസി പ്രൊവിഷൻസ് വെച്ച് ഡീൽ ചെയ്യുന്നത്. So അതിൽ 358 എന്ന് പറയുന്ന ആർട്ടിക്കിൾ 358 is actually dealing with the cancellation or suspension of the fundamental rights at the time of proclamation of national emergency. So the 44th Amendment Act laid out that the Article 19 can only be suspended when the national emergency is laid on the grounds of war or external aggression and not in case of armed rebellion. That's an important point. So this was actually the basic thing. That is how fundamental rights have been affected, is mentioned in this statement. But as per the 44th Amendment Act, which was in the year 1978, it stated that, or it amended that, the fundamental rights will be suspended only if the national emergency is due to war or external aggression. Okay, it will not be suspended. That is, the fundamental rights will not be suspended in case of armed rebellion. If the reason is armed rebellion, the fundamental rights should not be suspended. We are having basically 3 different reasons for national emergency. One was war, external aggression, or armed rebellion. Adil armed rebellion on reason engil, if the emergency is called due to armed rebellion, our fundamental rights will not be suspended. Okay, that was not actually in the initial definition. It was later brought only after all the emergency periods. നമുക്ക് 3 national emergency ആണ്, ഇതെല്ലാം കഴിഞ്ഞിട്ടാണ് ഈ amendment വന്നത്. Okay, 44th Amendment Act came only in 1978. That was only after the 3rd national emergency. So suspension of other fundamental rights. Under Article 359, again, the President is authorized to suspend by order the right to move to any court for enforcement of fundamental rights during a national emergency. So we will not be able to move to court at that time. National emergency സമയത്ത്, otherwise we have that right, അല്ലേ? നമുക്ക് ആ right ഉണ്ട്, to move to the court. That is, we are not having this fundamental right and all. So at this time, that is at the time of national emergency, we will not be having that particular right to move to any court for the enforcement of fundamental right. Thus, the remedial measures are suspended and not the fundamental rights. Definitely, remedial measures are suspended എന്ന് പറയുമ്പോൾ തന്നെ we cannot question if we are not being provided with fundamental right. അല്ലേ? Fundamental right നമുക്ക് കിട്ടിയില്ലെങ്കിൽ, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ if we are not having fundamental right, there is no issue എന്നുള്ള കേസിലേക്ക് വരും. Then the suspension of enforcement relates only to the fundamental rights that are specified in the presidential order. The suspension could be for the period during the operation of emergency or for a shorter period. The order should be laid before each House of Parliament for approval. The 44th Amendment Act mandates that the President cannot suspend the right to move to court for enforcement of fundamental rights guaranteed by Article 20 and 21. So, നിങ്ങൾ ഇത്രയും ഇതിനകത്ത് ആലോചിച്ചാൽ മതി. Basically, Article 19 providing the fundamental rights, it was being suspended. It will be suspended if national emergency is called. First point. 44th Amendment Act says that fundamental rights will be suspended only if national emergency is called due to these 2 reasons. Okay, war or external aggression. If it is due to armed rebellion, we will not be able to suspend the fundamental rights. Then another major thing with respect to 44th Amendment Act is that the President cannot suspend the right to move the court for enforcement of fundamental rights guaranteed by Article 20 and 21. We are having certain fundamental rights that is been offered by Article 20 and 21. ഇത് നമുക്ക് അനുവദിച്ചു തന്നിട്ടുണ്ട്, even during the national emergency. Okay, Article 20 and 21 is been provided to us. These the fundamental rights which have been offered by Article 20 and 21 will not be suspended. That's the question. I mean, that's the point. Article 19 mentioned in the fundamental rights suspended, but at the same time, Article 20 and 21 offer in the fundamental rights. Other enforcing remedy we can move to court, and that was in accordance with the 44th Amendment Act. So three major effects: effect on fundamental rights, effect on legislative assembly, and effect on parliament. And the first one being the effect on center-state relationship. So just, I mean, you will not be able to remember the entire things, but at least you should have a basic idea regarding this. Okay, the rest we will discuss in the next class. You can mark your attendance.